Someone almost inevitably asks something along the lines of, there's a lot of foods I don't like to eat, like why I would not want someone to work on that with me, or why are you making kids eat these foods, they bring it to a very personal place, which I think is great, and we should almost do that with everything. Why are we making kids do anything? All right, so something that I really enjoy doing clinically and research-based is assessing and treating food selectivity. Recently, I started working with a teenager in a school setting. Historically, I've worked with mostly young children, 3 to 7 or 8 or so, and this young student, he was 13, very language abled. He does not like going with the flow. He counter controls everything his teachers do. He's highly adverse to being controlled, and he also happened to be a really highly selective eater, and it was a major concern for parents and for teachers, and they really wanted me to work with him. And I knew that his participation was going to be critical to success because there was no other option. We weren't going to strong arm this kid through a process. We certainly, even dangling candy and being like, if you do this, we'll give you this. Even just our very basic reinforcement contingencies would not be enough to sway him to come participate in a treatment in which he's going to be engaging in eating novel and non-preferred foods that he does not enjoy. And so we really knew that we had to take a compassionate approach, and not only that, but apply a lot of trauma-informed care strategies. A main tenet of trauma-informed care is promoting choice and shared governance, and that really lends itself to inspiring and encouraging consumer participation. So it's not only that they're willing to participate, but that their participation is critical to the success of the intervention. And in this case, this young student's participation was absolutely critical to success because there was no other option other than him being a willing participant. And so when your mind frame shifts to the treatment and the teaching and the intervention that I am organizing and designing, I need to make it the most enticing, a condition under which they are going to be successful, challenged sufficiently, but to be successful, that they will contact success regularly, contact reinforcement regularly. When your motivation is to have them opt in to what you're designing, I think it really changes the types of procedures that you're using, the types of modifications that you're adding to certain treatments. And so going into this process, we knew that we were going to have to design something that he was willing to opt in, which was quite the feat. So we really turned to our compassionate care procedures and also the trauma-informed care literature. He made it through our entire first phase of the treatment, in which he was eating apples, cheese, and occasionally eating sweet potato, but he let us know his preferences, and he's like, I do not like these sweet potatoes. They are not my jam. And so that was a-okay with us. Again, this process is not about forcing cooperation in any way. It's really providing them a context in which they are inspired to engage with these foods gradually and experience them in a number of ways, and to have their preferences emerge at the end of it. And so sweet potato was out, so now we're moving on and integrating cheese and apple into his lunchtime at school, and we're moving on to that step. So he did participate in the process with us, and he was really successful, and he taught me a ton about the process. So just his cooperation has already helped me as a practitioner to help other kids like him in the future. We have had a lot of success with this assessment and treatment process. I'm teaching kids to eat novel and non-preferred foods, so it's kind of like, check, we had these target foods, we taught them to eat it, but that's certainly not where you're all done. I am really interested in capturing what is necessary to teach kids to be flexible eaters, to not just teach them to cooperate with an adult who's like, you gotta finish your vegetables, but to teach kids to be willing to try foods. Because it's important to try a variety of foods, but it might also be of equal importance to be willing to try a variety of foods. Because preference can come later. I mean, how many times did we drink coffee before now we love coffee? Preference is taste exposure. So I think that if we can focus on changing their relationship with food, if they're very adverse to novel experiences, teaching them to try foods, and figuring out what reinforcement contingencies are necessary, that trying something new that they've never had before results in something fun and cool and good to change their relationship to food. So I really am now interested in moving beyond just the discrete skill of now they're eating the food, but one, did we even shift preference? Do they like those food now? So like getting into some bigger DVs really of preference, not just like consumption. And then also, have we changed, more globally their relationship to food and thereafter them as a eater in the future? A lot of parents are quite vocal that they just wish that their child was not an immediate, nope, I don't want to eat that. Anytime they presented something new. I think a lot of parents are tuned into the fact that they do just wish their kid was willing to try different foods. And really, those are kind of the future research questions that I want to figure out. Currently, the data that we have and the success cases that we have right now are parents and caregivers nominating this as a problem. I want my child to eat these foods. We help them eat those foods. So some of the other stuff that I'm more interested in, I think those are the next questions. Okay. Someone almost inevitably asks something along the lines of, there's a lot of foods I don't like to eat, like why I would not want someone to work on that with me, or why are you making kids eat these foods, they bring it to a very personal place, which I think is great, and we should almost do that with everything. Why are we making kids do anything? But it really does come back to quality of life. And one, who's nominating the problem and how big is the problem? And is the problem big enough that it is diminishing their quality of life? Often it's nutrition and just how they feel, and there's a lot of, maybe like medical symptoms that they're experiencing because they're not eating any fruits or vegetables. So certainly health-wise, there are quality of life issues with being a selective eater. But for many, there's not. You could be a picky eater well into your, 20s, 30s and beyond, and exist perfectly fine and maybe have a high quality of life. At that point, I think it does become a personal decision on if you need to expand your repertoire. So I spoke earlier today that I was like a pretty picky eater until my 20s, until I was put in situations in which I had to eat new foods, and it was extremely difficult. Yeah, I truly existed on takeout, fast food until my 20s. Okay. And then moved to Paris, and then the food scene there was just I was like, oh, truly multiple times I was chewing food, had to put it in a napkin, couldn't swallow it. I was not, I did not have the skills to eat flexibly in the beginning. I truly couldn't swallow the foods. They were so, at the time, foreign to me. But it's all to say that my picky eating wasn't a problem until it was, for me personally. And for a lot of people who have a narrow repertoire of eating, it might not ever be a problem until they're much older, and then there's health concerns pop up, and now they can't eat sugar anymore because they're pre-diabetic or what have you. So it's completely dependent on the individual and how big the issue is and how much it is indeed impacting their quality of life.